David Roger, Clark County District Attorney. By statute, my office represents Clark County. That it is our client. It's not necessarily a particular county commissioner, it's Clark County. When there are matters that go before the county, we provide them advice on legal matters. We don't advise them on political matters. If it's a strictly political issue, then they're on their own. But when there are issues of political matters, when there are issues of open meeting laws, we provide them our advice. If they choose not to accept our advice and they are sued, they are not necessarily entitled to what we call the good faith defense or the advice of counsel defense. And so we are an independent body. We're elected by the people, which is a good thing. We're not appointed, obviously. Our salaries are set by the legislature, and so there is an independence that my office has that perhaps city attorneys do not have. City attorneys represent city councils, and their salaries, their employment is at the pleasure of the city council. We're independent, and we exercise an independent voice. Thank you, David Roger, Clark County District Attorney.
Dave Austin. I think at this time I'm just going to defer to Wayne. Most of the questions I've had at this point have been already addressed, but I'll reserve the right to come back.
Actually, Don Albright, moderator, it's going to be up to you, Wayne. We've got enough time for one question, or for the last 5 minutes, if the two candidates would just kind of like to, really take a shot at each other and figure out what is the difference between these two candidates, and why should we endorse one over the other? What would you like to do?
Yeah, because most of it is just on the corruption part, so it's basically reiterating everything else.
In that case, we're going to go ahead and defer, and please ask away to each other, and let's find out what the difference is. Thank you.
Can we ask one more quick one on corruption here?
Absolutely.
Well, the DA's office has obviously been involved in public corruption issues. There's also been heavy federal government involvement in some of these. To what extent should the federal government be involved? Should they only step in if the state isn't? Is it an issue resource? What should the split be there? Dr. Richard Hawkins.
Don Shiraz. I think that the jurisdiction in terms of corruption is what they call concurrent. They have certain federal statutes, so whether the FBI or any of the federal agencies want to go after corruption, when they hear about it, they have the right and they have the power to do that. I think by the same token, the DA's office also has the right and the power to go after public corruption. And so obviously the district attorney's office has many other violent criminals or hardcore criminals that they have to go after, and that's probably why they don't choose to go after the sophisticated public corruption cases as the federal government has been able to do. But that's essentially the difference. I do think that we, as the county DA's office, we should try to put some more of our emphasis into going after that. And so I think the public has lost faith in their elected officials. It doesn't matter whether they're Democrats or Republicans. I think that people essentially feel that the politicians are there serving the people that have given them campaign contributions or gotten them into power, et cetera, et cetera. And whether the public is correct to believe that or not, I think that that's something that's out there. I think there was just an article yesterday in the Washington Post saying people have lost faith in the government. And I think that we need to do something to restore the public trust. So we shouldn't just punt and say that's the federal government's responsibility. I think we should step up and try to do the same. Don Shiraz.
David Roger, Clark County District Attorney. I've been a prosecutor for many, many years, and I tried cases in the courtroom. I continue to try cases, and I work with special units within Metro that do public corruption investigations. Because those matters are highly sensitive matters, myself and my assistant district attorney, Chris Owens, deal directly with them. We, I think, have been very active in ferreting out public corruption. We work with Metro Intelligence We at times work with the FBI. The federal, we have statutes dealing with misconduct of a public officer, which we use. We use our general fraud statutes as well. The federal government has different resources, and there are times when they are able to investigate a matter, use Title III or wiretaps to help make cases, and they have a very broad statute called the Honest Service Statute. That is a statute that they've used in their prosecution of some of the county commissioners. We don't have a parallel statute in our jurisdiction, but with the laws that we have on the books, I think that our prosecutors do a pretty doggone good job, and I think you'll see some trials and grand jury investigations pop up in the future, specifically endoscopy and UMC cases. David Roger, Clark County District Attorney.
My question is this: even though I understand that you're prosecuting some of the officials and everything, it just seems like business as usual because there's still more and more corruption going on all the time. So the question is that is it because that it's just a slap on the wrist to the people that do go to jail, and that they're only there for a couple of months or a couple of like 18 months to a year and a half? I mean, why is it that it doesn't bother them that if they get caught that it doesn't seem to bother them that much? I mean, why is it that we can't give them a stiff penalty, or a stiff, not penalty, but give them a harsh sentence because we elect them and yet then they betray our trust? And our trust is, and that's what they're there for, and yet they're betraying our trust constantly, and yet they seem to get only a slap on the wrist every time they get caught with their name in the cookie jar.
Don Sherez, I'll probably say that that's probably not the fault necessarily of prosecutors in the Clark County DA's office or even throughout the country. Could be the fault of the judges. You know, I've been there as a district court judge. I've had to sentence people, and so maybe sometimes the prosecutors might offer too good a deal. You know, everybody will plead guilty if you give me something probationable, and this is all kind of the backroom plea bargaining that is going on. So maybe the other reason is, of course, as a judge and even as a DA, you have to stop there and say, part of our job is to protect the community. Who is more dangerous? You know, somebody that's going to potentially rape somebody, kill somebody, shoot you with a gun, or a guy who steals $10 million or $20 million from the county. Well, maybe they're both just as dangerous, but when you're thinking in terms of violence and protection of the community, I think the judges often will say, let's lock up the guy that might hurt somebody or cause bloodshed, which was one of the things I always thought of as a DA and as a judge. And that's maybe why some of the white-collar criminals think they can get away with murder, no pun intended.
David Roger, Clark County District Attorney. I share your concerns. As Mr. Sherez told you, when we prosecute cases, we can get them before the judge. Ultimately, the judge is the individual who has to sentence that person. We have been frustrated in the past where judges have sentenced individuals to probation as a result of violating public trust, and I respectfully disagree with them. I tend to agree with you. When you raise your right hand, you take an oath of office, you swear to uphold the laws, you swear to serve the community and the public interest, and you violate that trust. When you engage in self-dealing, then you have violated that trust, and I think that you should, in the appropriate cases, serve prison time. We've had a couple of cases where they have not served prison time. I haven't been happy with it, but ultimately I don't wear the black robe. It's the judge who has to sentence them once we get them to the bar for sentencing. David Roger, Clark County District Attorney.
Don Woolbright, moderator for Veterans in Politics, and I would like to thank District Attorney David Rogers and former Judge Don Sherez. They are running for the seat of Clark County District Attorney. Thank you very much, gentlemen.